Hello everyone, it's Amy, and welcome back for week 37 of Build Your Stash and Craft. And this week we are going to make rolled plastic beads, and those beads will look like this. Now these beads were colored with our permanent markers. This one right here I was just playing with to see what it would look like if I kind of left it loose, and it didn't work very well, but I might be able to use that for something. But these are colored with our permanent markers, and these ones are colored with nail polish, and you can do it either way. The nail polish is a little bit more opaque, and the permanent markers are more translucent, so it just depends on what look you're looking for. I kind of like the permanent markers myself, plus they're a lot quicker to make. But it just depends on what you're looking for, or what colors you want, what colors you have, that type of thing. So for this week, we picked up our set of pliers, and we're going to use our needle nose pliers and our round nose pliers. And we might use the nippers later. But this is what we'll need for this week, along with our heat gun, some permanent markers, some nail polish, and a plastic 2-liter bottle. I'm going to grab a couple nail polish. I forgot to get those out. So to start with, and you'll also need your X-Acto knife. I'm going to move our pliers and show you how to get your plastic for the beads. Now, the way that I do this is I just kind of like to cut close to the label. I don't take the label off to start with. And you can do this one of two ways. You can start it with your knife and then use your scissors, or you can just cut it with your knife. And remember, whenever you're using your X-Acto knife, always use caution. Don't let it slip. Small cuts, because when you try and make great big cuts, that's a lot of times when it slips and you have a problem. But you're just going to cut it all the way around. And then when you get it cut, don't throw your top away, because your top will make a nice funnel if you ever need a funnel for something. So it does kind of have a little bit of a big hole in it, but it still will. See, I just slipped because I was kind of hurrying a little bit. Just a little bit of a back and forth motion. Now I'm back to where I started, but I'm off. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut that off. So you can do it that way. And then on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and move those beads because I'm going to dump them all over the place. I just know it. On the bottom, there's kind of a bit of a line right here. And so on the bottom, I usually just cut on that line. It kind of gives me something to follow. And again, once you get your cut started, I was going to put my scissors in there, but it's working so well. And I probably need to break off a couple of the top blades here, because this has got a lot of blades in it. You just snip them off with your pliers. You just break them off, throw them away carefully. I always wrap them in something and then put them like in a plastic bag and wrap that around there. And be careful when you get to the end. Always be very careful. Use such caution with your knife. Okay, we'll put that away. Now, this piece right here, I take this and just cut it down to right about where this comes together. Just kind of because it gives me a little bit of a straight place to cut. But these make really nice paint palettes. So I just kind of cut it a little bit short so it's easier to get into and everything. But now you have this dip here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 5 different wells to put your different color paints in when you're painting. Also, if you leave them tall, they work nice for your water jug too, to rinse your paintbrushes, because you can kind of like tap your paintbrush on these parts that stick up, and that just kind of helps get them clean. But I like to use them for paint wells. So now I have 2 paint wells there. I could put out 10 colors of paint all at the same time, and I have 2 funnels. Now you could use those for whatever, but I wouldn't throw them away. So, and once you get that done, then after that, then I go ahead and just cut the wrapper and peel it off. If I can get in there. It's not as hard as it looks, really. I am all fingers today. Okay. Once you get a little snip in there, it's easier. And they're usually just glued in one spot on one side. Let's get that all off. And that I do throw away, but actually you could use that for something. It's kind of neat. And then what I do is, there is a seam on this side, but I don't worry about cutting it on the seam. What I do is I cut this off because I don't have any need for that. And you can peel that off and then scrub the sticky off with something, but to me it's just about an inch. I'm okay with not using that inch. Okay. And then the way that you're going to cut this, you're not going to cut it around this way. You can if you want to. Number one, it's kind of hard to cut it the long way because it wants to keep curling up. And number two, you don't need that length for plastic beads. Because the plastic is so thick, you don't need the length like you need with a paper bead. You know, with a paper bead, if it's too short, if your paper's too short, it makes a really tiny bead. But all of these beads that have pretty much normal size, these were all cut, or these were all made with just this up and down length of the plastic. If you wanted a great big huge fat bead, you could go the whole length like this, and then that would make a really fat bead. And then all I do is I just start at the point. I just start with a point and just kind of cut up in an angle so that you have the triangle shape. It's wider here at the top, and then it goes down to a point at the bottom. And so you just go back and forth. Now, you can either just, I cut from a point to a wide. You can then go wide to point. I don't like to cut to the point. To me, it's harder to like get to that point. I always kind of have to curve back to it. So I usually just flip my bottle the other way and then just go point, because I don't necessarily care how wide my wide part is. I just flip it over so that every time that I'm cutting, by flipping it over, every time I'm starting with the point. And you can make all different widths. You can make straight ones. If I'm going to make straight ones, I usually start with a couple of straight ones first. Make a couple straight ones off of this end because that line is pretty well straight. And you can make your straight ones as wide as you want. I usually like them about a ½ an inch or so, or a /4 of an inch. I don't like them too wide. I'm going to go back down here and see I'm wider at this end. This is very hard for you to see, but it's going in an angle this way, so my point's here. So I just want to make sure that I start with my point. And I do like, if you make them really skinny, then you'll get kind of like the space saucer beads that look like, let's see, I have a few of those here. They kind of look like this. They're just kind of like a little space saucer. They're not big at all. They're very thin. And so you just continue back and forth until you get them all cut. Depending on what size you make them, will depend on how many beads you get. Out of the first bottle that I cut this morning when I was making the samples, I got 40 beads. And I wasn't trying to get a lot, and I wasn't, trying to get an even number. That's just the way that it turned out. I wound up with 40 beads this morning out of just one bottle. Okay, I can stop cutting now. For some reason, I find that kind of relaxing, cutting those like that. Okay, so once you get them all cut, then you're going to decide whether you want to do nail polish, permanent marker, or a little bit of both. So, and if you're going to do nail polish, when you do your nail polish, so don't forget to tell you, you want to round the edges. Now, I find kind of with the permanent markers, when I melt the beads, the corners, when you roll them in these two corners that stick out, they kind of melt in. With the nail polish, they don't do that. The nail polish keeps them sticking out, and then you have a little point sticking out on your bead. So with the nail polish, I always curve my ends, and you can curve your ends with the permanent marker also, but I find that I really don't have to. So I am going to stop right here and upload this, and I will be right back and we'll color them. Okay, I'm back. And so I thought I'd just show you how to color these. You can color them, like I said, with nail polish. You can color them with your Sharpie markers. You do want something that's permanent like that, so that if you were to put it on, let's say you put on a bracelet or something, you wouldn't want it to get wet and have it run, and get on your clothes or something. So you do want something permanent. And I just wanted to show you this one is I had already painted it before with a clear sparkle, and so now I'm putting a color on it so that now you have the color with the clear sparkle. When you want the clear sparkle to show, you put it on first and then you put the color on behind it. Or you can just put the clear sparkle on all by itself, and then you kind of have just a sparkly clear bead. But you just put it on and let it dry, and then put on a second coat of your nail polish. Now, if you want your nail polish to be really, really solid, you can put 2 coats. I usually just put 1. And then, you're going to roll it. So when you roll it, that makes it kind of darker as it rolls upon itself. So that's why I kind of feel like I don't really have to have 2 layers unless I want to put, if I want to put the sparkle on and then put the color on behind it. That's the only time I do 2 colors, but you can do it any way that you feel like doing it. Then you just set that aside to dry. Now with your nail polish, you want it to dry very well before you go ahead and melt your bead, because otherwise it gets stuck on your pliers and you don't want to do that. So that's just as easy as it is to paint the nail polish on, and then you let it dry and roll it. With the permanent markers, again, just so simple, you just color it. And this is a really thin one, so this one will really make a nice saucer bead. But with the permanent marker, you can color a couple by the time you're done coloring the second one. The first one is going to be pretty much dry, because it pretty much does dry right away. So, and you can do it if you want. You can do it in parts, different parts, different colors. And it doesn't show, I don't know how to say it, but it's not quite like with the paper beads. You don't quite get the same stripe that you would get if you use 2 colors. But you do get kind of a nice, like with this one being blue and red, you'll kind of get a nice of a purple kind of coming through in places. And I like to do it like a light color and then do a dark color just on the tip, and so that tip wraps around and kind of makes a line around it. I like the way that looks. This one won't quite look like that because they're both dark colors, but we'll do one like that. Let's do, I want one with a point on it. I got a couple of I'll just do a square one or a straight one here, so you can see how those roll up. And I really like the straight beads on the paper beads. On the plastic beads, I like them, but I don't like them better. In the paper beads, I think I like the straight ones almost better. But on the plastics, not necessarily so. All right, so this one I'm going to put a red tip on it. And then I will do the rest of it yellow, so that it's going to be a yellow bead, but then it's going to have a red stripe around it when we get down to that last bit. But you have to have a lighter color on the main portion of your bead, and then a darker color that will show up on the tip of your bead. So there we go. That's as easy as it is to color it. They're not hard to color at all, no matter which way you do it. Now the permanent marker ones are ready to go. The nail polish one, I usually let those sit for a while, like 20 minutes or so, especially since that's a second coat. This one here is nail polish, so I'll show you how we melt them. I use my needle nose pliers to roll them, and I go halfway, just halfway on the bead, and then just start rolling. I don't turn the pliers, because if you let up you want to hold on to that first part you grabbed to. So don't roll your pliers, just roll your plastic, because when you let go like that, it lets go, and then now you don't have anything to hold that plastic while you're turning it. So again, halfway, and then just roll it around. And if it snaps back out, it's really not a big deal. Just roll it back up again, just like that. And I do have to say that the nail polish ones, the nail polish gives them an extra firmness or stiffness, or however you would want to say that. And so the nail polish ones actually are a little bit more, they'll want to jump on you. They'll want to come unwound on you. So, and what I did there was I had these inside. I just, let off my grip a little bit, and then I just slid them out. And now I'm going to take my needle nose or my round nose pliers and stick those in there. And what I do is I hold the point when I take out these pliers, and then while I'm still holding the point down, then I put this on, and then I roll it around until I get to right about where that actual point is. If you leave the point sticking way out here, it will kind of curl up a little bit. And then all you do is you just dry it. And it doesn't take very long to dry it all. Now the heat gun hasn't been used in a while, so it actually takes a few minutes for the heat gun to warm up. But once it warms up, it probably maybe takes about 20 to 30 seconds to melt your bead. And I just kind of try and put it on the ends, make sure that you don't burn yourself with the heat gun. Make sure that you do go all the way around, and I like to hold it so that it blows like away from anything. I don't like to hold it so that it blows down on my table. And then you just, if you let go and it unwinds, you know you didn't do it long enough. But if you let go and it doesn't unwind, there it is. Now the reason I put it on the round nose pliers when I melt it is because then it gives me more of a round hole. And if I were to leave it on these, it would kind of give you a D-shaped hole, the shape of the nose of these. So it really doesn't matter, and I don't always switch pliers. And when I first started using these, the black on them was kind of coming off. So after I used them a few times, I just rubbed them really hard with a paper towel because the black was coming off on my bead. It's not doing that anymore after I've rubbed it off a few times. So I think that I've got it. But so there is our nail polish. And then for the permanent marker, again, just grab it about halfway and then just roll it around. If you grab it all the way across the whole width of the bead when you're trying to do this part, you wind up with a very wonky bead because it's skinny here and it's wide here. So your hole is going to be as wide as wherever the end of that bead is. That's why I only go halfway. So it just takes it a little way up my pliers. Now I've taken that out. I'm going to take my other ones and put them in the hole. And then I'm going to go around a little bit until I get to where that point is. And hold that. And then just go ahead, and like I said, it doesn't take very long at all. You just want to make sure that you do get every side and kind of get the top and the bottom a little bit. And that right there is probably good enough. You don't really, I don't notice, of course, if I put my glasses on, maybe I would notice more. And then I kind of do this. Now remember, your pliers are hot, your bead's going to be kind of hot. So, if you have sensitive fingers, don't grab the bead off there like that. Just drop it on your table. And don't touch your pliers because they're metal. They're going to stay hot for a while. But there is our bead like that. And I'll show you what the two-toned ones that I like. I'll show you what that looks like really quickly here because I'm going to run out of time. Halfway, and then just roll it around. And when you get it kind of like rolled around to the end, you can kind of adjust it a little bit if you need to, move it a little bit. And then even after I just slid that out, and I'm going to slide this one right in its place, go around to where my point is. Oops, and I just went past. There it is, and then I'm going to hold that. After you melt it a little bit, then you can kind of move it if you need to. If you need to slide those layers around a little bit. Until it gets completely cool, it is a little bit movable. And it will kind of stay there. And that should be about long enough. Take that off. And then if you need to, you can kind of slide those levels back and forth. And there we go. Now there's the striped bead. I really like those stripes. I think those are cool. If you dry it for too long, it will melt on your pliers a little bit. Make sure that you wipe that off right away. And that is how you roll the beads. So I will be back in just a few minutes and we'll do something with them. Okay, I'm back, and I thought that we would decorate this feather, and so I just pulled out some colors that there's a turquoise and a purple that I thought would look really good on this feather. And now that we have, and you kind of just like put them on and see which way you think that they would look best. Maybe the turquoise, I like the purple first, I think. And then now that we've got our round nose pliers, we can actually put a loop at the top. So I'm going to fold it very closely to our top bead, do a 90-degree angle. And the reason that you do that is because now your wire is coming straight up out of your beads, and when you make your loop to go around to the other side, your loop is going to be right in the middle. If you were to just start a loop right away, your loop would be off to one side or the other. So that's why you do that 90-degree angle. And then you just come in right to that fold, and you just wrap around your pliers, your round nose pliers like that, and then you turn your pliers to the top so that you can continue going around, and then you just go all the way around. And then I did kind of fold up my feather here a little bit, and then I'm just making a loop. I'm not doing a wire wrap at the bottom, but you can. And I'm going to go in right close to the end, right where those two wires meet. Make sure that you cover up that little bit of wire that's going to come off so it doesn't go flying, especially if you have a puppy like we do, because they'll find it for sure. And then see, now the loop comes right up through the middle of my beads. And now I can hang that up. I could put it on a jump ring. And when you do a jump ring, you always open them sideways like this, and then put them on and close them sideways, just like that, right? Just like that. Don't ever open them this way, because you'll never get them back round again. So, but there we go. We have it on a jump ring. That looks really pretty. And those go really nicely together. We also have our one of our bobby pins here that we did for our journal. And you could take one of those and put some of the beads on there. And again, I'm into this purple turquoisey colors. I noticed when I pulled this out, it's like, oh yeah, these ribbons are the same color as that feather. So I'm going to just go purple, turquoise, purple. Just like that. And there we go. Now those are on there. Now you can put a knot in this. You can tie it around the last one. And the higher up that you tie it, the higher up your beads will stay. Like that. And then they'll hang down there like halfway. So we have our beads on there. Now this one, because I tied it, it's going to go sideways. See that? So that's not the best idea. Just a big knot underneath of it would be the best. So I will wind up taking that out and just putting a knot in it, because I don't like the way that that hung sideways. But so you can use these for anything that you would normally use a bead for. and they work really well. They look really pretty. You can mix and match them with your paper beads, which really looks pretty, and like with the flat paper beads that we made and the cardboard beads that I did a supplement video on. You know, basically anything you can do with a bead, you can do with these, and they look really pretty. So there's that bookmark now to hang on the side of my journal, and I think that looks really pretty. So, and I thought too that I'd really quickly show you how to make the jump rings. So we have our wire that we got at the Dollar Tree, and just take a length of wire and just nip it off. Depending on how many you want will depend on how long you make your wire. But to make large jump rings, you can just wrap them around a pen. To make small ones, you can wrap them around a skewer. And I lost my pen, but I'll make the large ones because it'll be easier, I think, for you to see. So I just start by holding a little piece of my wire, and then you just wrap close together, but they don't have to be exactly close, because when you get done, then what you do is you just push it together, just like that. Okay, and then you're just going to slide them off, and I know it seems silly to push them together and then pull them apart, but that's the way I was taught to do it. So, and then you just pull them apart just a little bit, and you start by nipping off your first little extra bit. So we are going to, let me see if I've got something here that will help us. We're going to nip off that extra bit right there. I'm going to come right in here to where I'm actually on the circle, and I'm going to nip. Okay, make sure that you keep a hold of those pieces. Now, what you're going to do next, right here is where we just cut. Right there. We are going to go exactly straight across from that. I'm going to turn my pliers around so that the flat side of my pliers can sit right up against that one that we just nipped, and slide it right up to the next one. And then nip the next one. What that does is that cuts it off of the spiral, and now you have this look. And a lot of times when you buy jump rings, that's exactly what they look like. They've got that little gap right there, and that's where you put it onto whatever you want. And then when you straighten that out, you've got your perfect little circle right there. So again, you just, wherever you made your cut, you just take the flat side of your cutters and put it right up next to that and cut the next circle. And so you've cut that off. And then we've got a little one. We cut it right there. So we're just going to go and just nip it right straight across from where we cut it. Okay, now you've got this piece left. Use that for something else. I would not try and make that a jump ring. You will always have a little piece at the beginning and a little piece at the end that you are not going to want to make a jump ring out of. You want to make sure that you're at the perfect circle point, and that is a jump ring. And then I made all of these little ones exactly the same way, except I wrapped the wire around a skewer. So that's how you can make jump rings for your beads. And now that you've got your beading tools, you can make really nice loops at the top of your projects to put your jump rings through. And we've got nice sharp snippers that have a very sharp point, so that when you go to cut that wire, you just have to use the point to do it. So there we go. Those are our nice beads that we made. And oh, where is that one? I don't know if you can, this is the way that the turquoise one that I had originally painted the sparkle on, and then I painted it turquoise. So that's the way that that one turned out. And it looks really pretty. And don't forget that when you do the nail polish ones, they don't melt at all on those corners. So kind of trim off the corners so that they don't stick out. And we'll just do this one really quick if I have time. So that we can see what it looks like. Okay, and then just let go of your pliers and let them pop out. Use your round nose pliers to hold it. And then remember that when your heat gun, I'm gonna set this down for a second. Watch your heat gun. Remember that that's really hot. It can start paper on fire. It's very hot. When your heat gun's cold, remember it takes a few minutes for it to heat up. If you're doing a lot of these one right after another, it won't take as long to melt them each time. So once it gets hot, they'll melt a whole lot quicker than the very first time. There we go. We'll see if that's good. And it is good. It sticks. I might want to adjust that up just a little bit. And there we go. I don't know if you can see the sparkle on that or not, but it has a really nice sparkle. So those are our beads. I'll be back in just a few minutes with what we need for next week. Okay, so this is what we were able to make this week. I forgot to tell you that I wound up with 45 pieces to make 45 beads out of that one bottle that I was cutting up. And here are the beads that we made this week, along with the jump rings that we made. And there's our feather from last week where we put the beads on top that match very nicely, and one of our bobby clips that we made earlier this year. So that's what we did this week and some of the things that you can do with it. I hope that you enjoyed this part of the series. And what we're going to need for next week is I was requested to do tea dye and coffee dye paper. So that's what we're going to do next week. And so what we will need is, this is a 2-pack of cookie sheets, and they're just very flat. They don't need to be deep. You want more size enough to fit your paper than you do depth, because you only need a little bit of depth. So this is a double pack of cookie sheets. We will need some regular tea and some instant coffee. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We need some, what do you call those? Paper towels. And the paper towels I got at Walmart. I got great value, everyday strong paper towels, because you want one that's not just going to fall apart. The original ones that I bought at the very beginning of this series, I got for 50 cents. They weren't worth the 50 cents I spent on them. So, but you will need paper towels to lay your papers out on. So definitely you're going to need to have some. And then also some paper. If you already have paper, you don't need to pick that up. You can spend your extra $1 on whatever you'd like to. I did pick up a sketch pad. I still have quite a bit of other papers here, but I am almost out of this one. And so this is what I picked up for myself, so I could have it for this and for other things. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The tea, the coffee, the paper, and the tins all came from the Dollar Tree. The only other thing that I got was this came from Walmart, and they were 98 cents. So we have $5 that we're spending for next week, so we won't have anything to put in our bank. So our bank will still remain with $6.50 in it. And again, here is what we made this week. And I really enjoyed it. I hope that you have fun playing with it. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.